Hello again. So, thanks for watching my first video in which I explained how I have a box, just like this one, for the ancestors that are your direct line. So, you have a file for each parent, a file for each grandparent, a file for each great-grandparent, etc. It's on back on your direct line of ancestors. This box is different. This box is for people who are not direct line. That would be, so this will be for cousins, siblings, aunts, uncles, people who married into the family, like maybe, your cousin's wife or something like that. So it's not your direct line of ancestors. And again, direct line would be parent, grandparent, great-grandparent, great-great-grandparent, etc. So I'll show you how this box is set up. The thing I love about this box is that it is totally not organized. And I know that sounds weird because the point here is organization. But if you look at the other box I showed you, it started with 2 files, one for each parent, then the files for the grandparents, then the files for the great-grandparents, etc. This one is, hey, I found some information about, a great uncle on my mom's side. I'm gonna drop it into a file, stick the name on it, and be done with it. Oh, look, here's my cousin's wedding announcement. I'm gonna drop it in a file and put my cousin's name on it. And here's some information about someone in our family back in the 1700s, but I don't think he's a direct ancestor. I think he must be like, the brother of my great, whatever. So stuff like that. You drop it in a file, you put the name on it. And I love that. I love that you don't have to organize it by generation. You don't have to organize it by branch of the family. Anytime you find information that's not, your parent, grandparent, great-grandparent, great-great-grandparent, direct line ancestors, anytime it's not direct line, you just drop it in the file and put a name on it. So I'm going to show you what I have here. This one right here is my cousin's husband. So he's related through marriage. But he did this article, he was interviewed for his local newspaper, for an article about Veterans Day and honoring soldiers and his experiences in the war. So I wanted to save that because, that's family stuff. That's part of his life and our family story. So I dropped just that article in a file and I put his name on it. If there's anything else like that I have information from him about family things or any other type of newspaper article or anything, I'll just drop it in this file again. But I have that family information saved, that newspaper article that he did. Here's some other ones that are current, my cousins. They're not historical, obviously. They're here right now and they're still young. So I made a file for each one because, seeing that they're my cousins, I have things like their wedding invitations. So I have wedding invitations. My cousin, was a soldier, so he has newspaper articles. They have sports and music programs and things like that. So I have anything like that saved in there because that's part of our family story too. So those are some current people, but let's talk about, people from a long time ago. Here's some back here. These are siblings of some of my dad's ancestor side of the family, so it's, maybe the siblings of a great-grandparent or something like that. I'm not exactly, at the moment, I don't remember. I would need to look through the information to remember exactly where they belong on the family tree. But because they're not direct line, they would be, great-great aunts or something like that. But I found information about them and I drop it in a file. They're not direct line ancestors, but they are ancestors. And I typically will do maiden name. You may want to do both or just their married name. I typically will do maiden name, and I put the name usually in somewhat bigger letters at the top, and then I'll put the first name. And then if I can, I'll put just the years that they lived. I won't usually do month and day because it's just too much information on a little folder. But I will put years because that makes it easy to find which one you need. Like, if you're looking at these names, you're probably not going to have more than one of those. But you don't want to end up having 10 folders that say William Smith. So having the year can help out in that situation. But let's see, as you can see, these are, they have the year. Some of them don't have the year, but what I'll do is, like, this person, this is his son right here. So he has Junior, and it's really big, and I did that to make sure I can see right away which one I need, to make sure that I'm looking at Junior if I need Junior. Now, again, I said that this is not organized by branch of the family. It's not organized by generations or years, anything like that. That is why you want to have nice big last names at the top, nice big first names, possibly years. It just makes it really easy to find what you're looking for when you can look over and you're like, oh, here's Terry, or, well, here's Devin's folder, like that. You can just find it really easily. The other thing is, and at some point you may want to organize it. Like, when you get a ton of them, you may want to put anyone who has the same last name, put it together, just so that you can be like, well, that starts with W, so I'll go to the back, It may make it easier when you get a ton of them, but I don't have too many, so I'm able to find what I'm looking for reasonably quickly. The other thing is, there may be people that you're not entirely sure how they're related to you, but you've come across their name enough that you figure, well, I've heard this name so many times, they gotta be related somehow. Or you may think, I'm not sure if they're like a direct line ancestor, like this guy right here, he may be the brother of my great-great-grandfather or something like that. Well, the brother of your great-great-grandfather is not a direct line ancestor, but it's definitely still part of your family and part of your ancestry. So you'll want to make a file for him. Now, one thing I'm going to warn you against is don't start making a file for all the relatives you can think of. You'll have 1,000,000 and some of them may sit empty forever. Just make a file when you have something to put in it. Like, let me see this. Okay, this is something, it's just a printout of like a funeral type of thing. It just talks about the person from what they were writing down from her funeral. I found that, so I made a file for her. For my grandma's sister, I found her death certificate, so I made a file for her. My grandmother has other siblings too, but they don't all have files. I just make a file when I have something to put in it. It just makes it go, it's less wasteful, because you don't want to make 50 billion files and then they're all sitting empty. I'm going to go ahead and show you the front now. This first file is not one particular to a person, it's family trees. You may find on the internet different family trees. It may be a list like this. It may be sort of a chart like this where then it has names. Any family tree you find, you don't want to add it to a particular person because it's got tons of names on there. It's from a whole family. So just make a file that you can drop any family tree that you find in there. The next one is cemetery. If you look online, you'll find that there's cemetery records, and it tells you what's on, like what the different tombstones are, what the family names, what's on the tombstones. Any cemetery record you find, you'll be able to drop in there. So family trees and cemeteries. The next one is notes and correspondence. When you're doing family history research, you are going to talk to so many people and you're going to make so many random notes, and they may not all have a place to go, but you can just add your different notes. You can deal with them later, but having a notes folder will help you. The next one is unknown. You may not know who some of the people are that you find, but you came across their name enough that you know you better hang on to that. Or you're not really sure how to include them, but you know they're part of the family. I'm going to end, but I hope this helped.